My name's Graham Hughes, and I'm going to be your tutor for this webinar today. I'm going to show you a demonstration of the key features of MAXMaps in the next 40 minutes. Just a quick item about me. I'm based in England. I've worked with MaxQDA for more than 12 years and with all kinds of software for over 30 years. Now, I'll be working today with the Windows version of MaxQDA 2020. There's an equivalent program runs on Apple Mac computers, and it looks exactly the same as this. So if you are a Mac user, stay with us. This webinar will be just as useful for you as it will be for the Windows users. And I'm going to be using a version of the English language example project, which is available to all MaxQDA users. I may have modified some of that standard example a little bit with some extra maps for the purposes of the demonstration. Now, this will be an advanced webinar. So I'm assuming that all of you have some familiarity with the basics of MaxQDA, such as importing documents, creating and applying codes, writing memos, and using activation to retrieve selected data segments. If you haven't done some of those things for yourself yet, you may find some aspects of the webinar more difficult to understand, but it'll still be worthwhile to listen, as the program's so intuitive that you'll probably pick up much of this as we go along. So just a quick outline of what I'm going to do. I'm first of all going to show you the MAXMaps interface. And then I believe that you can use MAXMaps in two basic ways, as conceptual maps and analytical maps. And the distinction between those, I hope, will become clear as I go along. As I say, please use the chat facility to ask questions. So let's open up the program now, and I'm now going to minimize the GoToMeeting bar, which is otherwise getting in my way a little bit, obstructing my view. Right, I'm now ready to go. So here we are in the MaxQDA interface. Just for the benefit of those who are not absolutely familiar with the program, you've got a menu bar across the top, and each of these menus gives rise to a different ribbon of tools. Under that, you've got 4 panels, which make up the main working area of the screen. In the document system, we import and organize our data, calling it documents. Double-clicking on a document in the document system opens it in the document browser, currently to the right here, where I can scroll up and down and read textual data and so on. You can see coding brackets here, where coding has been done in this example. So that leads me down to the code system in this window here. This is where we create and organize codes. And after we've done coding work, by a process that MaxQDA calls activation, we can pull data into this retrieved segments panel, just the segments which are attached to one of the selected codes and fall within one of the selected or activated documents. And there's a status bar across the bottom, which keeps track of how many documents and codes and segments have been retrieved, amongst other things. So that's a quick tour around the screen. Let's get on straight away to MaxMaps, which will be found in the Visual Tools menu. So I've gone to the Visual Tools, and the first button on the Visual Tools is MaxMaps. So I've clicked on that, and here we are. We've opened a map. Now, this opens up a window which it's worth having as pretty much a full screen over the top of your MaxQDA program, certainly when you're a beginner learning it, and so on. The idea of mapping really came to the fore, I think, with someone called Tony Buzan, and mind mapping as a way of creative thinking. So it is very much to be thought of as a creative thinking tool. So especially when you're learning it, can I recommend that you're as playful as possible. Try and turn down the evaluation or judgmental part of your mind and let things happen and judge them afterwards. See what you can do, and then afterwards decide whether that was a good thing or a sensible thing to do. But we will go playing with this. So we've got just 2 menus at the moment. A third one does appear when we click on an object in the map. We get a format, but that hides itself whenever we're not clicked on an object. Just the Start and Insert menus. Within the Start ribbon, we have the possibility of turning on or off the list of maps. That's this panel down the left-hand side, which keeps track of any maps we've already created. So when you've made a map, you can store it and go back and find it weeks, months later, or the next day, whatever suits you. A new feature in MaxQDA 2020 was that in this maps table, we can create groups of maps. So let's just create a folder, which I'm going to call conceptual, because the first type of map I'm going to make is going to be a conceptual map. So I'm going to call that conceptual maps. And we can write comments on a map, which can be useful for putting a little quick description, what you created a map for, and so on. When you've got lots and lots of maps, that organization will become very useful. The map obviously goes in this part of the screen. So to explain it, I'm going to create a new conceptual map from scratch as the first way in. So I'm going to start a new map just by clicking on the new map button, and that has created a new map. It calls it new map at the moment. I'm going to name it later on. You can name it straight away if you want, but often the name will come to you rather later. And then I'm going to close off the list of maps because I don't need it. I want to have as much space as possible and as little distraction as possible for creating the map. So on my conceptual map, I'm going to create objects and show relationships between the objects entirely independently from my MaxQDA project in the background. So I need to go to the Insert menu, first of all, where I can bring in objects. And I've got some simple objects here. I'm just going to bring in, I just click on it and drag it into the map, and I've got an object there. And as soon as I click on that object, the format thing comes up, allowing me to make changes to it. So let's have a little play and see what we can do with this object. If I drag one of its marker corners, whoops, there we are. I can make it larger or smaller by dragging it. I can stretch it in either direction, or if I hold the Control key pressed, I should be able to drag it and keep it. Okay, I've got an increase size button here, so I can make it bigger by doing that if I want, or decrease its size, and so on. Now, in the Format menu, you've got sections for its label, its symbol, the object as a whole, and some other links. I'm not going to go into the other links, but let's look at the symbol. I'm going to change the color of this symbol. I'm going to make its border brown, and I'm going to make its border fatter by clicking on the 5-pixel border there. And that's done that. I can select it again, and I can change the fill. Let's give it a green color. So that's done the fill inside in green. If I want to give it a name, I can do a right click to get a context menu, and I'm going to add a label, and I'm going to call this a school. I'm going to do a conceptual map about the education system in the UK. So here I have created an object for a school. I can move it around. The object and its label will go around together. I'm going to have several schools. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to click on it. And if I copy it, I can quickly create multiple ones. Paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it. There we go. I've created lots. If I want to make my map really tidy, I can use the Align tool to hold this up and come back to the Start menu and click on the Align. Let's align along the middle so they're all the same height, and let's spread them evenly along a horizontal line. There we are, nice and evenly spaced. I might now come back and edit the label and make this school number 1. And this one can be school number 2. This bit is a little bit fiddly, but you get the idea. Let's go back to inserting and bring in some other objects. Let's bring in a circle. Who controls the schools in the UK education system? Let's give this one a label. This is going to be a local education authority. Let's abbreviate its name. That's done that. Let's just select the object, go to the format. Let's look at change the border color for this. We'll make this one a purple border. Okay. Oh, actually, I want to make it fatter as well. Oh, that's done the border for the label. Sorry, I want the border. I should have done the border. This is the symbol. This is the border for the symbol. So we'll give this one the purple as well and make that fatter. So you've got to learn things around here. Let's come back to this. And can I remove the border around the label? Because I didn't actually want that. Yes, good. Let's see if we can make it a little bit bigger. So not happy about that dragging one. So we'll increase its size here. We'll fill its background with the same green color as the schools. We'll copy it and make another one over here, which we're going to call edit its label. This one is going to be, these aren't local education authorities, these are academy chains, another way of controlling schools. And to show that they're different, I've decided I'm going to change the line color on this to a red color. That's okay. And I'm going to change the fill to a blue color. There we go. And we'll just change the fill color on these so that they match the academy. So you can use color to help create organizations. I'm going to rename this one to be a private school. And I can make that on 2 lines with shift and so on. Right, now I've got some objects and I can think about relationships. For this, I need the linking button. So this link on the start menu is a mode toggle. When I'm in link mode, I can draw lines between objects. So I can draw a line from local education authority to school 1. I can draw a line from local education authority to school 2. I've got to go right away till it highlights. But I can't move anything around. So I draw some lines. If I select a line, I get a line format, which allows me to choose things like a direction arrow, that the direction of control is from the local education authority to the school. So I can turn these into directional arrows if I want. If I click anywhere to come out of link mode, I can then move things around and the lines will go with the movement as one would want with relationships. Time to insert a new actor. So now I'm going to bring in the government. So let's have an object for this. Let's create its label. We'll call it government. There we go. That's done that. Select that and come to format, and let's make the label font bigger. Yes, so I can just drag that up. So the label is getting bigger without the symbol necessarily getting bigger. Let's come back to the link mode and draw a link from government to the local education authority and a link from government to the academy chains. But now let's recognize that there are differences between these. So the government has more control over local education authorities than it does over the academies. So I'm going to illustrate that by using the curved connector and make it an arrow. So come back to start. We're not in link mode. So as I move government about, you can see how that curly line moves differently. With these lines, I can select a line and I can make it fatter if I want. And I can give it a color as well. Close that, and that's made that a fat purple line. And this one, I can choose the line again. The line from here, we'll make it fatter, and we'll give this the, what color was I using? We'll give it a brown color. There we go. Oh, it should have been red. That's what I meant. Come back to the line. You make mistakes. Don't worry. You can quickly correct things. Things can be changed. So I wanted that curvy line the same color as the outline there. So I'm gradually building up my understanding. I'm just going to do one more thing. I'm going to bring down a couple of symbols for exam boards. Let's just give this a label, exam board 1, and this one, a label, oh, I put the label inside, that became a text one. Okay, that was a mistake. I can undo, remove the label, select this, right click. I accidentally clicked on add text instead of add label. So let's try again. Now we're going to get exam board 2. Don't be put off when you make mistakes. Nothing is fatal in this. You've got an undo button, so something goes a little bit wrong, you can correct it. Let's come back to the start, go into link mode, and say school 1 uses exam board 1, but school 2 uses exam board 2. You have to go right till the highlight comes. School 3 uses that, and school 4 uses that, and the private school uses that, and so on. So I've created those links. I don't need any directional arrow between the exam boards. There isn't any control in that. Notice that if I'm still in link mode, so I want to come out of link mode. If I want to switch these around, the lines will go with them. So if I change my mind quite drastically on a thing like that, the lines go with it. So I've created my first map. Let's restore my list of maps, and let's rename this map. If I right-click on this, I can rename. So, oh, it's gone to the conceptual maps. No, I didn't want to rename that. That's okay. I want to rename this map. There we go. And I wanted to call it education system. There we go. And then I'm going to write a comment about it. This is a map of UK education system before research. It's what I think I'm going to find, because there are several reasons why you might create a map like this. You might do this at the start of your project, where you set out your a priori, your initial understanding of what the structure of actors and organizations and so on in the field that you want to investigate, what that structure is, your current understanding of it. I might then come back at a later stage, having done my research, I might come back and find this map. And if I do a right click on the map over here, I can duplicate it. So I've got a map called copy of education system. I'm now working in that. And let's just see if we can edit that name. So education system, I'm going to call this after analysis. And it might be very interesting, and I'm going to drag that into my conceptual maps. There we are. It works just like the code and document systems. You can get more like the code system. You can get them on the same level. So I'm in this. I can now make some changes, and I might decide that, for example, this control arrow isn't valid. I could remove that from the map. Perhaps the academy chains are not actually controlled by the government. It's just wishful thinking that the government has any power over them at all, and things like that. And I might decide that I was wrong and down here with these links, and that actually school 2 uses that one and not this one. So I can change the exam board layout because my research told me actually it was different. So all sorts of things may change in my understanding. I hope they do as a result of it. So by having one map when you start and another map afterwards, you can actually see and demonstrate to other people how your understanding changed. Come back to the start. You can copy your maps at any stage onto the clipboard to include them in a PowerPoint presentation or a Word document, or you can export the map as an image for more general storage and import into multiple different locations at a later date. That's entirely up to you. So your maps, once you're happy with them, you can move them and use them in other ways. So that is a conceptual map. If I go back to my outline, this is a map that has nothing to do necessarily with the data in my project other than in my changed conclusions. It's just a demonstration, a diagram of ideas. Now let's look at analytical maps, which are much more closely concerned with the data in your project. So I'll come back to my maps here and look at some existing maps. We had, when I opened up, we had something here, a model of the code distribution. So this is a model on this very simple example project. We have the code parents and how many times it has been used in a certain number of documents showing around the ring, and the number here indicates that it's been used most often in the Devin document 4 times, and then Joanna and Alex 3 times each, and these others all 1. A very simple diagram of a model of the data. So the number, the document names, the codes, and these numbers are all things coming from the document and code system in the project behind. In MaxQDA 2020, all maps are synchronized automatically with the data, so there is always a link from the data to the map. The links do not, generally speaking, go back the other way. So deleting things on the map doesn't delete them in the project. Changing things on the map doesn't delete them in the project. This is a place where you can explore the ideas, the data, the concepts inside your project and develop your understanding and your analysis through a visual treatment. Not everybody is visual, but for those that are, this mapping tool should be an enormous help. Let's start a new map again, and we'll just leave this one as new map. And I just want to show you that there's a general principle that you can drag any object that you like onto a map. I can drag documents and codes and so on, and I can make links if I want. From the start menu, I've always got the possibility of remove from map, so I can change my mind. Oh, I didn't mean to bring friends in. Well, that's highlighted, remove from map, and it goes away again. It's still, I'm not deleting the friends code. I'm simply saying I don't need it in this map. But if I minimize the map and come down here, and we're in the document George, I could highlight a code here, click on a coded segment here, do a right click, and I've got a little, from the context menu choice, when a map is open, I get the choice to insert into the map. And I've got a memo here, right click on that, and insert the memo into the map. Let's restore the map. Here we come, and here is the memo and a negative code. So objects now inside the project can be brought into the map. If I hover over this memo symbol on the map, I can actually read the text of the memo that it was behind it in the project. So this is the first memo of this project where my colleague Max, I can't move the mouse or I lose it, has typed in an idea, a thought he had while coding George's document, something about George's career conflict, and so on. So there is an idea that we might want to be illustrating some bigger concept on the map. Or if I click anywhere else, that goes away, and I've got the a code here, negative, and similarly, I can read that code, that coded segment, by hovering over it. Now, there isn't anything to read if I click anywhere else when I hover over parents, because this is a code attached to a whole bunch of segments. There isn't anything to read here because there's no point in bringing the whole document in the map. We've got that in the document browser. But if I want, by doing a right click here in the map, I can choose to turn the text of the coded segment as a label. I can bring that whole coded segment text in, and then I can move that as an object. I've got a code symbol and the full text of that brought into the map. So now we're moving from the conceptual map into the synchronized analytical map and so on. But it's hard work doing this one thing at a time. So MaxQDA gives you a whole bunch of models, and this is what I want to look at next, how we use these models and the power that they give you to do things more quickly and analyze things from there. So I'm going to start a new document model. My current map there will be saved. Let's just close MaxMaps just to demonstrate that. So I've closed that under control. When I reopen MaxMaps from the menu, there my new map is still there. I can move it into the conceptual models if I want. I can rename it. Let's see if I can just get that renaming function to work. There we go. Double click on it, and I'm going to call it Demo Map 1, just to distinguish it from other new maps. Okay, now let's look at some document models. So I click on the down arrow, and we've got a variety of choices here. Actually, the first 5 are all single case models, just using different MaxQDA objects behind them. A single case model bringing in coded segments, or summaries, paraphrases, and things. Let's look at the coded segments. So this map, as soon as I clicked on the single case model coded segments, the whole map interface changed. It's giving me an instruction over here: drag and drop a document group, or a document set from the document system here. But I don't go to the source document system. It's giving me a copy of the document system here. So I can make my map, cover that up, because in the maps panel, it's showing me my current document system. So if I drag in the document George, it's half built a model. Now, can you see there's a blue shading over the map screen here? This is because we're halfway to our model, but we've got a whole lot of choices of parameters of the model down here. And until we click Use Model, I can keep changing the parameters, and those changes will be reflected on the map over here, so I can see what do I want. At the top, I've got memos. Do I want these in-document memos? If I remove the tick, those memos go away. Do I want any code memos? Put a tick there, and memos for 2 of the codes which are coming up on the screen probably are being shown there. I don't think I want the code memos, but we'll have the in-document memos back again. Now, the next section, codes. How many codes do we want to display? We could choose it with activation. I'd have to do that outside the map, and I haven't got anything activated. How many codes do I want to have going round the ring? 5, 10, 15, or 20? Let's just go to 5, and the map is simpler. It's showing me 5 of the codes. How do I want to select the 5 codes? By code frequency. It might have got a different selection to if I untick that. I'm not sure if that makes any great difference. But let's have the line width reflects the frequency. Now that means I get a fat line to positive and a thin line to negative, because positive has been used 11 times and negative 4 times in George. So we'll go with that. Let's come back to the 10, so we get rather more items. Do I want to display coded segments? At the moment, I've got coded segments around here. There are 11 segments attached to George. It's only displaying 5 of them because that's controlled by this one. If I push this up to 7, I've got more of the segments here being displayed. So I've got control of how many of the segments. The higher the number, the more complicated my map. Do I select the coded segments by weight score or segment size? I don't think I've got weight scores in here, so I'm going to go by segment size. And I've got some things to change labels and symbols. I think I've given you some idea how changing these in the setup phase gives you a visual idea of what the map is going to look like, so you can get the right parameters before we go to use the model. And it's now time to use the model, and it's now set it. The data is now in here. It might be worth using the shrink to fit so I can see the whole map. So we've got some zoom and shrink control buttons here. which we can use to change size of things. I've got a slider if I want to rapidly move it larger or smaller. So lots of things, and I can move it left and right. I want to center it on the screen and so on. So I might now want to use the comments to remind myself of the parameters that I set. So let's just add a comment. We had max 5 coded segments ordered by size, because those were 2 key parameters that I set. George single case model is quite explanatory enough, so this extra comment gives me extra idea of what went into those parameters as I set it. And I can move this down and put it into my code models group. The little green box shows that's the map currently displayed in the diagram. So now we can start thinking about this map and what it tells us about George. And I can move things around. Now, something that's worth demonstrating at this point, if I select multiple objects, I'm going to select all of the coded segments over here for positive, if I can, and their code, and I come to the Start menu, I can group those objects with a click. Now I can move that whole group around to different parts of the screen if I want. They will stay exactly in their relative arrangement, but until I ungroup them. Now when I click anywhere else, I can now move an individual one. So if they were getting a little bit crowded, I could move them as en bloc to another part of the screen where I can see them more clearly. So that might be one thing you want to do to check out your objects. The numbers here, can I just emphasize, these numbers by coded segments are the paragraph number by each. If I hover too long, the paragraph, the segment will be opened up. And see, this one says 8, and in the segment bar across the top, it says George 8 to 8. That segment is entirely in George paragraph 8. Click anywhere else to get rid of that. This number here on positive is the number of times the positive code has been used in the George document, 11 times. So I've got 5 of the 11 segments coded to positive in George. There are 6 other data segments not appearing on this map at the moment. You've got to think about the implications of that because that might be important. Over here, I've got the only reference to grandparents in paragraph 21, and I can read that, so I'm not missing any data there. But the data with big lines, we might be missing some of the data when we're looking at it. As before, I can read any memos by hovering over them, read them in place, and so on. So I can start thinking about George as a case and what this display of the codes attached to George are telling me about George as a person, as a subject of my analysis, as a topic of my research, and so on. That is the single case model. Let me just go back. How do we start that one? That was a single case model of coded segments. Let me now look. Just got to check my notes. The single case model of summaries. Let's start another model, single case model of summaries. And I've got to remember. Can't remember who's got it. Well, we'll try George again, see, has he got it? Oh, yes, George has got some summaries. If I didn't get any data around here, I would have needed to try another one, but that's where the halfway house of the part model comes in. So I can choose, do I want to have memos again? No, actually, I don't think I do want to have the memos this time. Do I want to display any codes? No, I'm working with summaries, so I'm going to use this model as it is. So now let's just shrink to fit. And I can move things around if I want. That was probably quite all right where it was. I probably just need to move the map across a little bit so I can see all of that. This is the one that needs to come up so I can see all of this summary. Now, what are summaries? Summaries are places where in MaxQDA, after we have coded, we use the summary tool. Let's just minimize this and remind you from the analysis ribbon, we got summary grid and summary tables and summary explorer. These are ways of working with summary data. In the summary grid, we can summarize all the data segments. So for here we've got a very large data segment under George for recreation, and that has been reduced in this to a summary of the content there. It's not a very good summary because it's almost as big as the original source data. We try and do data reduction by getting these summaries smaller. Let's come back and restore my map. And there we are. There is the recreation summary that we just saw on in the summaries table, now here in this map. So if I've done a lot of summarizing, the single case model of summaries may be a better way of getting into my case study by looking at George. And because I can move things around, I can juxtapose things. I can bring his career over here. I can perhaps bring the recreation and bring that one round over here and look at these more side by side if I want, and bring other things in if I've got a lot more summaries. You've got to imagine there could be a lot more data than this. I'm working with quite small amounts of data here, but it's all quite flexible and so on. So I can move things around and get visual ideas. So that was the summaries. And so if you've used paraphrases, which are another data reduction model like summaries, but paraphrases you generally would do before you code. Paraphrasing is an alternative way of getting into your data in a very grounded approach to reduce your data into your own words or summarized words, paraphrased words at the outset before you get into coding. And if you want a single case model of a speaker in a focus group, because focus group speakers are different objects in MaxQDA to ordinary documents, they've got a separate model for creating a case model for a focus group speaker. And let's look at this last one, single case model with code hierarchy. So let's drag a whole document group this time. Let's drag the Indiana group in here. And wow, this gives us a whole different lot of stuff. So now we've got the Indiana interviews and we've got code hierarchy. We're in the setup. We can't change the layout of the map. We should be looking at what do we want to include, how many levels and so on. So let's just, how many levels of subcodes? If we just go to one level of subcodes, we only get the main headers, but I want 2 levels of subcodes. If none of these actually have subcodes, so pushing this up to 3 won't make any difference, actually. There are no 3rd tier subcodes in this simple example, but if they were, they would come through here. And how many codes? I've got this set to 6, so there are 6 subcodes of interview main topics, but if I push this up to 8, we'll get still more things in here, so we'll take that. Shall we have code size reflects code frequency? So larger frequencies will have bigger symbols. And this aggregate frequencies for parent codes is not working on the frequency number, well, it's using the frequency number, but it's the code symbol that gets aggregated. So that has some strange effects. All of these go back to small because the code headers get the big. So I think we don't want that aggregation. That aggregation is just applying to the code size. Let's now use the model. And now in the model, I can move things around. So I can move this autocode search for family out of the way because it doesn't have any subcodes. And that means I can move the interview's main topics up a little bit. I might want to move this one down below because these are so big. They're getting a little bit in the way, and then I can move my highlighters across a little bit so that's not so far out. And I might move my partner code down here so that my assessments can look a little bit neater. I can tidy my map up because I might want to go back to my start and export this map for use in a presentation or in a report as an appendix to my thesis or something like that. Might very well be a display of this kind of part of your interview of your code system as it's been applied to these documents and so on. Remember, in the setup, we had the possibility of using activation. So if I only want a partial code system, by activating part of my code system in advance, I can restrict the map to just my selected codes, and that sort of thing is possible as well. Let's put these, move these maps down to the document models because that's where they should be. One more document model. We've got the two cases model, and I think this one is quite an interesting one. So let's run this one. And I think we'll have George and Kim. So I drag two documents in, and now we've got the setup. Again, I can change setup things in here. You can see all that, but let's go straight into the model now. And here, what is this model doing? I think this one is very interesting. It allows me to compare the two cases, George and Kim. It shows all the codes they've got in common down the middle, joined intuitively to them by all these lines, with the frequency of those joins shown in the code numbers here. But to the side, we've got codes like Kim has one reference to partner, boyfriend or girlfriend probably. George evidently doesn't have a boyfriend or girlfriend, so there's no reference there. George, on the other hand, refers to parents and siblings, which Kim doesn't. Kim, that's interesting. Kim doesn't seem to refer to family members at all if this coding is comprehensive. So Kim is not mentioning his family, but he does fortunately have a partner. He or she, I'm not quite sure, is not entirely alone. George talks about family, not a great deal, just once each, for parents, siblings, and grandparents. This yellow code is not very significant. That's just a general highlight. But they've got a lot of similarity. All these other things are similar across the two of them. So the two cases model allows you to make a comparison for the two chosen documents, and you can make this as many times as you like. It might be worth adding a comment here that this is George and Kim. Or you might want to put that into the title, whichever way, by editing the title name to store that. So those are my document models. Now let's look at the code models. So we'll look at a single code model for coded segments. Now we drag and drop a code from the code system. We'll bring the people code in here. And that gives me a ring around the people code with all of its coded segments of things that have been coded to the code people across these documents. Do I want to bring in the code memo? As this is grayed out, there isn't a code memo for this code, so I don't have the choice there. But if there was a code memo, that would be bold, and I would be able to put a tick or not. How many coded segments? I've got a maximum of 15. I think we'll find, let's go down to 10, and it's a smaller circle. If we go up to 20, oh, no, there are between 15 and 20 segments here. So depending on how big a maximum we put in there, we've got a setting we can vary. Let's do it by selecting them by segment size. Not advisable at this stage to change to coded text because we would swamp the map. Let's just show you that. All of those coded texts are that's just too much text. Let's go back to the segments and rely on the synchronization to read them. Let's use the model now. So this is the code model for people. Now I can read symbols by hovering over them. I can read the text behind them and think about them. I can think about how this people code has been used. And I now remember, actually, I've got the wrong code. So let's go back and run this one again. And I wanted to use the siblings code for this. So let's bring the siblings in. Notice this one, it's got a 9 because there are only 9 segments attached to sync. So I've got all of the siblings data there. So these others are not relevant. I've got all of these are only if we've got to select, because we can't display them all, but because I've got them all there, that's all grayed out. Let's use the model. And now let's look here at Jamie, and Jamie refers to a brother. Okay, so let's move Jamie over here. Jamie has a brother. Does this one also refer to brother? Yes, that's Jamie's brother. Let's look at Alex. Alex has a sister, so let's move Alex over to here. Devin, what does Devin have? Devin has a sister. Those with sisters we'll put over here. Is Devin also talking about a sister? Yes. Max, what has Max got? Max has got a sister, so that's okay. George has got a brother. We move George over here. Vinny's got sisters. Vinny, sisters. Okay, so now if I go to my insert, I could insert a text, bring this text down here, and let's edit this text, edit the label. I'm going to delete text and put in brothers. I could change things on this. I could make the text bigger. Let's go up to 16. I could change the color of that text. Let's make it blue. There we go. And then I could bring in another text and move this over here. And we edit the label here. And surprise, surprise, I'm going to put the word sisters there. And again, by highlighting that, I can change its size, bring it up to 20, change its color. Girls are pink, so let's make it pink, a bit darker pink. See how this is interactive, so it's not one choice of color. I can move these about. So I can explore this code siblings. Is it interesting to split this siblings code between those who have brothers and those who have sisters? And I might. And I might come back over here and edit the name. Let's go to the end. Siblings, brothers, and sisters. This time I've edited the name. I might now do another new code model, the same model, drag in the same code, siblings, and use the model. And this time I might look for references to are they older or younger. Jamie doesn't mention age there. Brother, blah, blah, blah. Harder to do because I've got a younger sister. So that can go to the younger side. We may have to have some that we don't know. Vinny, I think, talks about his sisters. Sister had a baby, so she's probably older. Well, assume that. George. Ambiguous, we don't know. Max, I'm looking for older or younger. Reading the data. Again, unknown. This one isn't working, you see. I think that's an older sister. So there, Jamie. We don't know. Jamie comes down here. So now I put labels younger, don't know, older. Now, when I do this, if I go back to my brothers and sisters, I'm exploring different ways that I might look to split this code. I have done nothing in my original project. The siblings code is unchanged. I haven't split the code. That requires other tools in MaxQDA. I'm simply looking at different ways that I might choose to split the code. That's the point I'm trying to make. So in the map, I might explore different possible interpretations. So brothers and sisters, older or younger, like, dislike, get on, don't get on, these kind of things might be alternative ways that I might explore all these data segments coded to siblings, which means brothers and sisters. In the map, using the single code model, I can explore different ways in which I might break that code down. I can see I'm getting some questions. Shall I just quickly show you the other models, and then I'll take the questions. So the single code model Summaries works just like if I bring in, say, the recreation code, I get all the summaries of this code. So if I've summarized a code across multiple documents, this model will give me a useful way of looking at all of those summaries, moving them around. That's the key thing that you can do easily on a map. You can move things so that you can juxtapose ideas in different ways and see what seems to go with what as ways working instead of with data segments, but with summaries in that. So that was the code model summaries. The code theory model, let's just drag in the interview main topics. No, that didn't work. Cancel, try again. I've got to remember what the code theory model does. Let's have the assessments. Oh, I want to display subcodes. There we go. That's the one. I didn't go far enough with the other one. I've got code memos and subcodes. I think there is only one level. Okay, let's use that model. So my assessments code has 3 subcodes, and here they are. I can move them around. I might use this for reporting, something like that. Whereas the hierarchical, the codes, subcodes, segments model, if I drag in my assessments to this one, I get the same positive, negative, and ambivalent, but I get the choice of some coded segments. How many coded segments do I want for each? Lots and lots, or only a few? Now here, if I use weight scores in my project, I could select the 3 segments which have the highest weight score, and if I've used my weight scores consistently, those might be the 3 most useful segments for illustrating the meaning of that code, in which case this model then becomes something very powerful for taking the best segments for each code, and I might then choose to change the label to the coded text. Let's use that model and then move these segments around a little bit more so that they are so I can see those segments clearly, see the power of this now. Having the coded labels, I've got to imagine I've got the most important data segments here, and I'm in a bit of trouble for space over on this side, but luckily I've got a couple of shorter ones there, so I can whoops, I want to get that positive code, get that out of the way. There we are. I actually need to move these up a bit because the lines are rather getting in the way for me, and so on. So now I can read all that data. So that's the code subcodes model. The code distribution model, I think that was the one we started with. Let's just drag in the friends one, and we can see a bigger scale. Use this model for the friends code, all the documents that have been coded to friends and how many times and so on. That was a model that was on the map when we first started. And the code co-occurrence model. Okay, I'm going to bring in 3 codes for this. Parents, insert more codes. We'll have friends, insert more codes, and we'll have positive. So those are the 3 codes. And now it's looking for intersections of data with those codes. Wow, that's quite a map. Now, I'm going to move this up. I want to have at least 2 intersections. And that's reducing the number of lines, I think. Let's push that up again to 3. This should simplify the map because it's only going to find the most frequent intersections. That looks good. Code symbol size by frequency of co-occurrences. Well, actually, no. Actually, I've still thinking of that one. Right, it's done it. And line width by frequency. Again, it's going to check the data. I could have limited this with activation. I've just left everything in. There we go. Let's use that model. And let's shrink it to fit. So here are my core codes: positive, friends, and parents. And the bigger the lines, the more they intersect with my key code. So the fattest line is home life, and positive has been used 14 times together. But this one is only intersecting 3 times with one code. It's not intersecting with other codes. I'm going to remove that from the map. This one only links to positive. I'm going to remove that from the map. It's not. And this one, I'm going to remove it from the map. Then I've got a bit more space to see how these things, this one, oh no, that is used twice, but this one, no, that's only used once. I'm going to remove that from the map. I'm simplifying my map by removing some of these things which don't intersect across multiple things. And then I can see much more clearly where codes occur, have been used with at least 2, and in some cases, all 3 things. Have I got anything which are used with all 3? I don't think I have, because friends and parents are very rarely used together. They are alternatives in the topics. But that is a much more sophisticated model than the other ones. Thank you very much for your attendance and attention with me here today. I'll sign off with Max QDA's saying, research is a journey, travel it well. That's what I wish for each and every one of you in your important research journeys. May you travel them well.